talk about college planning and scholarship preparation. Just some things that you can do and start thinking about as your student is ready to progress for the next 2 years in anticipation of that senior year. Once August hits that senior year, it is fast and furious. That fall semester for your seniors is pretty intense. Deadlines roll around early, so the more that you can do to help them be prepared on the front end, the better your life is going to be when your child is a senior. The first page that you will see attached to this little handout that you got, these are just checklists, some general items to keep in mind for your child to be working through as a sophomore and then again working through as a junior. So this is something that you might put in a place where you refer back to periodically. We will go through the information related to this as we go through the PowerPoint, but this is just a nice one-page summary that you can go back to and kind of say, okay, are we tracking with these things? Okay, what have we missed? What's something else that we can be doing? Again, trying to lessen that stress load right at the beginning of that senior year. Meet our staff. We have a new counselor this year, Ms. Jenna Anderson. She'll be with, she's actually in the back handing out the packets right now, and she will wrap things up at the end of the evening. We have Stacy Kinzer here. She is our scholarship coordinator. You will want to know Ms. Kinzer. It's amazing the resource that she is for our students here at RHS. And so please, please, please heed every word that she shares with you. What she does for our kids at RHS is second to none in Northwest Arkansas. So please take advantage of her services. I'm Cindy Cottle. I'm one of the counselors as well. And you will see that we are alpha assigned in the counseling department. 9th graders are with Coach Eford, but once they transition to sophomorehood, then we pick them up and stay with them for 3 years. So it takes a little time for us to get to know the sophomores. By the time they're juniors, we're hoping that we know them fairly well. And then, of course, senior year, we're right there in the trenches with them, trying to help get those college applications completed, letters of recommendation written, and things like that. So it's important that we get to know your student. That makes it such that we can do a better job for them. Thank you for turning that up. That's a little better. So tonight, these are our objectives. We want to talk about the college planning and then what we might be doing thinking about funding for college. So college planning, where and when we start, how do we prepare, and then how we're going to decide. And then for the funding for college, there's 3 areas: scholarships, financial aid, and then of course, savings. Where to begin? The best thing your students can be doing right now is thinking about a rigorous curriculum, take challenging courses, and stick to it. When the going gets tough, find a way to get some help to do what you need to do to continue in a rigorous curriculum. As of right now, the lottery scholarship for the class of 2015, so our recent graduates, it was a requirement that those students graduate with a SMART-Core diploma. The big issues in the SMART-Core diploma have to do with math and science. Primarily the math is what kicks kids out of SMART-Core. To be a SMART-Core graduate, you need to complete Algebra 2 and then a year of math higher than Algebra 2. That is the one area where students struggle the most. Math is just hard for a lot of people. That just means for many people, it takes them more time and a greater commitment to get through it. But it is doable for every single one of them. There is tutoring offered before and after school. You may need to hire a private tutor. Help your student stick it out and get through the math. Whether or not this changes the requirement for the lottery scholarship, there's talk right now that they may not require a SMART-Core curriculum. It's going to be tied to ACT score. But again, that could change depending on who our politicians are. Committing to a SMART-Core diploma means college preparation. So the best thing you can do is to help your students stay in that track. What I like to tell my kids, it's either pay now or pay later. So you can bail on that math class, you can get to college, and then you can test into a developmental class, meaning that class is not going to count toward your college degree. You're going to pay somebody $300, $400, $500 to do that class so that you can build your skills up to be ready for the class that will start counting toward your degree. So think about how you're going to lay out that plan and have that stick-to-itness. The SMART core requirements, if you're not familiar with that specifically, those are listed every year in the course catalog. In last year's course catalog, it was page 9. That is also available on the website, so if you don't have your hard copy of your course catalog, you can go find the PDF form there, and then students get a new copy of that course catalog every year in the spring. 9th grade, I know that's already passed for your students, but again, the big deal, the rigor of your courses, you need to start thinking about extracurricular activities, community service, leadership activities, and keep a log. That is one of the best things you can do. Sophomores, it's still fresh in your mind right now, some of the things you did last year as a 9th grader. It is so overwhelming when seniors get to that fall semester and they're trying to recreate the magic. What else did I do when I was a 9th grader? There are so many other things in front of you. If you will set up some sort of system where you are logging that information, you will be so glad come senior year. You're going to pull that document out, and there it is. You know everything that you have done. Even something that may seem like it's minute, that may fall right into a category that is going to be something that somebody at some college or for a scholarship, that may be a piece they're looking for. So write down any of those activities, the time you spent, the year it was. Make sure you are keeping that log up to date, whatever system it is that you're using. In 10th grade, it's time to start looking at potential colleges. Not making a decision about that, but what kind of colleges are you interested in? Look at the big pool, what's out there. Make sure you're continuing all of your extracurriculars, community service, leadership. Look for areas where you can plug in. As sophomores, our kids, everybody, sophomores, just took the PSAT and MSQT, so that just happened a couple of weeks ago. That is a practice run for the PSAT and MSQT that the juniors take. The sophomores take it just as a gauge and a preliminary test. It's a trial run. It's the junior year when kids take that test that can qualify them for national merit standing. So that's the time that really makes a big difference. And then lay out a plan your sophomore year for when you're going to take your ACT and or SAT. And it's not too early to start taking the ACT or SAT your sophomore year. So consider where you are in your curriculum. Come talk to your counselor. Do you think I'm ready to start my ACT? Maybe in the spring, maybe in December. It's not too early, but certainly lay out a plan. I would recommend to you that you take college entrance exams at least 4 times. ACT has done a data analysis that shows that over 4 different assessments, you will continue to improve your scores. This is the typical student, will continue to improve their scores, and then they start to plateau unless you do something significant to some kind of intervention. So try to study for the test or change how you approach it. So take advantage of taking that test multiple times. In the 11th grade, that's when you start narrowing down your college choices. So get a little more decisive about what you're looking for. If you can plan to visit some college campuses, work that into a spring break trip, or if your family's going somewhere during the summer and there are a couple of colleges along the way. If you can start building that in, there is no substitute for just being on a campus and getting the feel for that. There are admissions officers who are always ready to receive you and give you a tour of their campus, and they want to sell their campus to you. So if it's possible, contact those people in advance, set something up, and let them showcase their school to you. And then, again, you'll get a feel for what it feels like on that campus. I've had students come back and they think, this is my #1 school I want to attend, and then they set foot on campus and like, that just was not a good fit for me. So it's a worthwhile investment of your time. You definitely need to be taking the ACT and SAT your junior year. GPA, Whether we like it or not, the first two things a lot of schools are going to look at are those numbers, GPA and your ACT or SAT score. So it's important that kids take that seriously. Again, we oftentimes have seniors come back and say, man, had only I known, that freshman year I didn't work that hard and now I'm paying the price. It is imperative that kids understand, starting that 9th grade year, that cumulative GPA is going to follow you all the way through, and it really does matter. Now, not to say, if they've had hiccups or bumps in the road, that it's doomsday and we're never going to get into a good school. That is not the case. But they're going to have to work a little harder and do some other things and try to sell themselves to do that. So again, making sure that they're doing everything they can to work on those grades and keep that GPA up. When they are applying for college, it's at the beginning of their senior year. So that's after 6 semesters. That's the end of their junior year. So when that transcript is finalized, the end of their junior year, that's what they're sending to colleges for consideration for admission. Now, they do care about what happens after 7 semesters and at the very end after 8 semesters, but it's this 6th semester transcript that's going to be the initial thing that schools will look at. Continue resume building. That's adding on to that portfolio we talked about with your community service, leadership activities, being involved, being that well-rounded student. And then leading into your senior year. This is when we put it all together. So you're going to apply to your final list of colleges. So narrow that choice down. Know which ones you truly want to commit to that you're going to pay that application fee, because most schools have a fee to apply for their school or apply for admission. There's a college fair that is hosted. It's county-wide now out at the Shoemaker Center. I didn't mention that for juniors, but juniors and seniors both should attend that college fair. That is a great place to make contact with people, get on their radar. They'll start sending you information. And you can work through those people also to schedule your college visits. Take those college visits. Students get 1 excused absence for college visits the senior year. There's a second one that can be granted. This is up to vice principal discretion at this point. It was previously tied to the 11th grade literacy scores, and that has gone away. And so now it's at the discretion of the vice principal. I'm sure there will be stipulations, but always ask. What's the worst thing they're going to say is, no, that's not doable. So potentially there are 2 college visits available where that does not cost you an absence. The last test that your students should plan to take for their ACT or SAT college admission scholarship is December. And even that's right under the wire. So my recommendation to you would be, have a plan to where you're not relying on this December ACT. If you have just missed a cut score for bumping over to being eligible for a scholarship or for college admissions, then absolutely, that December test, they'll still accept that. But if there's any way to avoid having to rely on that, have a plan ahead of time and let this be your safety test. That if you have to test one more time, it would be the December test. Even though the 6th semester transcript is what you send in to be evaluated for admissions, you got to finish strong, because schools still will want to see how things finished up your senior year. So again, senior year, a lot of students think, well, that's just the time I'm going to coast and blow things off. The strength of your transcript matters. Okay, it goes back to like the SMART Core diploma. Honors designation. Schools don't necessarily care that you're an honors grad at Rogers High School, because every school has different requirements to be an honors graduate. But what that does signify is that you are taking classes to strengthen your transcript. You're taking world language. You're taking upper level math. So the things that go hand in hand with being an honors grad also go hand in hand with developing a strong transcript. So a student that takes, basically easier classes all the way through and has a good GPA, that's taken into consideration. So those courses where you're pushing yourself, that really does matter. And then the final deadline to make decisions about what school you're going to attend and the financial aid packages that they offer you is May 1. That's a universal deadline. Also, we listed up here the website for the Arkansas scholarships. That's the lottery scholarship website that you'll use, and Governor's Scholarship, and there are other things that are related to that. And again, all of that is in the handout and the PowerPoint that you have. Some resources that we listed. This tasktime.com, we pay a membership to use that. This is just a wealth of information, links for anything you could imagine. There's a person in Arkansas who puts this together. Anything that you want to know about, being recruited as an athlete. There's ACT information where you can do reviews or get additional information. SAT, things parents need to know. So use this resource, log in there and look at this. Anything that you could possibly want to know about this process, you can find. It's a great database. TheCollegeBoard.com, this is a great college planning resource. We're going to take a look at that. Okay, so on this website, on the bottom left, Big Future is the program that they use. And you'll see at the top, getting started, find colleges, explore careers, pay for college. You can sign up for an account, and then your student, if they, let's say, know what they want to major in, but they're not sure which schools offer that major, you can do a search, and it's nationwide, and it will tell you every school that offers that major. You can also set parameters like, I want to go to an all-girls school, or I want to go to a school in the Midwest, or I want to go to a school this size. There's all kinds of parameters that you can set, and then it will return to you a list of colleges that offer that potential major. So there's all different ways that you can search for colleges that might suit your needs. There might be something out there that your student never even considered, and it might be worth taking a visit. So you can make an account, you can save all of the information there, and then return to that and make adjustments, and that's just a great tool to use to help you through the process. All right, preparing for your college entrance exams. Typically, in this area, Northwest Arkansas, our students, you hear them talking about the ACT. Everybody takes the ACT. All right, we post those dates, we advertise that, lots of review sessions for the ACT. I would like to encourage you to also consider doing the SAT, College Board's test. They are changing the structure of the test somewhat. Sometimes students do better on one than the other. So it may be worth taking a day and see if SAT is a better fit for your student. And we'll talk here in a minute a little bit about how the SAT has changed. But we have seen students that they're right on the cusp of making the cut score for a scholarship on the ACT, but they can't quite get over the hump. So they tried the SAT and they can score it on that. It's just a difference in how the test is laid out. So think about that as a consideration. Additionally, let me tell you that both of these programs, ACT and SAT, they offer 2 fee waivers for juniors and seniors. So that means that if your student qualifies for free or reduced fee lunch, or they're involved in an Upward Bound program, or a couple other things along those lines, then twice they can take the test for free and get a fee waiver. Just come to the counseling office and we can provide that. The same thing is true for the SAT. So that would be 4 college preparatory tests or college admissions tests that they can take free of charge. The Compass is an exam that NWAC uses, and so if the student knows for certain that that's where they're going to start their college education, then they can do the Compass out at NWAC. That is a nice thing for a lot of kids that have anxiety about that time pressure. The Compass is untimed, so they can sit down and take ever how long they need and not feel the pressure of having to do, like on the ACT, 60 math questions in 60 minutes. So that's a good option for kids if they're attending a community college or such. But most four-year institutions do not accept the Compass for placement scores. We do have the ASVAB coming up this week. It's Thursday. We offer that as an opportunity for kids to get career information. It is the military's career test, but it is the best test that's out there that not only returns information to kids based on their interests. We have lots of tools out there where kids can have career suggestions made on what they're interested in, but very seldom is there an assessment that it will tie their interests and their aptitudes. So I may really love everything to do with engineering, but I don't have much of an aptitude for math, so engineering is probably not a very good choice for me career-wise. The ASVAB ties that together, aptitudes and interests. So this is a worthwhile investment of time. It's free. The military does it as a community outreach. There is no obligation to follow up with them, but they will come back and do score interpretation, and it's good career information for your students. ACT test dates coming up. You can find these on the website actstudent.org. It's listed down on the bottom right. And then please note the deadlines for those. SAT dates. We do not give the SAT regularly at Rogers High School. We do it one time in a calendar year. But you will see that schools in the area do give it. FHS gives the SAT. Their students take the SAT pretty frequently. And so they offer that on every test date. So your student could drive to Fayetteville High School and take the test there. Bentonville High School has 3 test dates that they offer. The one that we do is in January. So again, that might be something to consider, having your student do that and just see if that might be a better fit for them. The web address is in the bottom right for those. Okay, a little bit about the SAT. We're not real well versed in this for a couple of reasons, but we're going to get better. One of which is that our students don't typically take it, but we don't know why we aren't encouraging students to take that. The test is changing though. Prior to this spring administration, students were penalized for wrong answers. Well, SAT, that's gone away. College Board took that away. So no longer is there a penalty for wrong answers, and so you want to answer every question just like on the ACT. There's not a big vocabulary section on the SAT. That used to be a big part of that. The second part here, facts about the SAT, is going to be reading, the writing and language, and math, and then the writing part will now be optional. There was a writing piece that was required before, so now they're making that optional. The scale has changed from 400 to 1600, and then you see the time there. 4 answer choices before. I think they had 5 answer choices. One of the real perks with this is that if your student qualifies for a fee waiver to take the SAT, then built in with that, whenever they hit senior status, College Board provides 4 fee waivers for admissions applications to school. This came on my radar pretty strongly this year. I had a student come in my office and say, I want to apply to this school. Can you help me with an admissions fee waiver? So I contacted admissions, and they said they worked through this program. That was the only way that they would waive that application, admissions application fee for my students. So this is a real benefit. So again, maybe put that out there and explore that a little bit and consider that test. ACT prep, we do a couple of things directly through Rogers High School. One, we bring an outside entity in called SAPS. I think several of you have mentioned that your students have participated. It's a test of endurance on a Saturday for 6 hours. They come in and they do lots of strategies, practice. They get a ton of review materials. It's a good day. It's a long day. In the spring, the fee is going up $10. It was $79.99. It's now $89.99. This will happen in April, so it's right before the April test. So to give them a little bit of a boost and some time prior to that April test. Brian Hembry is a local gentleman. He works through the University of Arkansas College Access Initiative Program. If I had to make one recommendation, it would be for him. I've collaborated with Brian for 4 or 5 years now, and the information he gives to these kids, how he teaches them to approach the test, and the strategies that they practice are second to none. $180, that's a significant investment for what he puts out there, but I will tell you, if that saves you one developmental class in college, you've already gotten your money back on this. So his contact information is up there as well. He does usually over 4 sessions, and then it's 3 hours.
Mr. Hembry will be on our campus Thursday, and during English classes, all students will actually have a 45-minute session free of charge with Mr. Hembry on that day. So they have conversation with your child when they come home on Thursday, and that can give you an idea of something if you want to invest in that, they'll have a chance to have a 45-minute session with him this coming Thursday.
That's incredibly valuable. He's done a lot of community outreach in Northwest Arkansas, and he knows what he's talking about, and he's good at what he does. And the things he will do to help your student approach this test will pay dividends.
So you have to sign up for that on Thursday, or is that automatically your name?
It's automatic.
They don't have a choice, they're going.
It's automatic. All English teachers are actually in a training session that day, and instead of getting subs during the English class, the students will come in here and listen to Mr. Hembry. We'll have some hired people to come in and help supervise kids. But there's no registration for that. It's free of charge to all students at Rogers High School. He's just going to give tips and strategies on how to improve your ACT score.
Okay, so that's a great resource. We also offer free ACT reviews. They're Tuesdays leading up to each national test day. So 2 weeks before the test, there's a Tuesday where they do math and science. The following Tuesday, they do the English and the reading. Again, I've heard some good feedback from kids that have participated in that. 3 hours on a Tuesday night. I know that's long, but it's well worth it. All right, now I'm going to hand it over now to Ms. Kinzer. Again, this is the person you need to get to know, and you're going to love her before your child leaves Rogers High School.
Thank you. I don't know if I can live up to what she's setting me up for, but before we get into the second part of the evening, I hope you guys are still with us. She just presented a lot of information. It can be overwhelming. I guarantee you by the time we're done tonight, your heads are going to be ready to explode. But just stick with us. We're going to help you get through it. Everything we're presenting tonight is designed to help ease the process so that when you get to senior year, you're going to be well prepared, your child's going to be well prepared, and that challenge of the whole senior year, college admissions, scholarship search, hopefully will be less painful because you will spend this period of time getting ready for it. So as we go into the next section here, we're going to talk about two important vocabulary words. We're talking about ways to pay for college. One of them is scholarships, and then the other one is financial aid. When we're talking about scholarships, we're talking about the area of money where your child is awarded financial resources to help support their education that they are not paying back. By far, that is my favorite way for kids to get college paid for. We don't want to have to borrow money. We love it if we don't have to dip into our own savings. So our goal would be let's maximize their opportunity to be able to gain scholarships to help cover their college expenses. However, there is a whole other side of the financial piece called financial aid. And this one is strictly based on your assets, your income, the financial stability in the household. Your child has zero control over their eligibility for financial aid because that's going to be based strictly off of your income and everything that you have to offer. Whereas the scholarship piece, generally students are gaining scholarships based on their accomplishments, their credentials. When we're talking about scholarships, there's a couple different brackets you need to know about. Scholarships can be awarded in terms of merit. When we're talking about merit scholarships, those are usually based on GPA, ACT scores, maybe even extracurricular activities, volunteer services. Sometimes donors will look at the financial need component, but at the end of the day, the student is being offered the scholarship based on their merits. And then sometimes they'll determine if the student has additional financial need. And then the last way, students also can acquire scholarships based on athletic abilities or if they're interested in serving in the military. We're going to kind of go into these here a little bit more in detail. Then when we're looking at the financial aid side, a couple key vocabulary words for you to know. One opportunity for monies is called grants. When I'm working with the seniors, I always use this analogy. I say grants are good because they give them to you. It's the 3 G's. Grant is money that is given to you similar to a scholarship, so that's good, and it's really good because they are going to give it to you and you don't have to pay it back. There are other financial aid opportunities that are offered to you, and they're not so good, and they're called loans. And I say to the kids, well, loans are lousy because they lend them to you, and then you do have to pay them back. So that's not really a fair shake to the loans to call them lousy. However, it is an opportunity for kids to get their education paid for, but they're going to have to borrow the money and pay it back. But again, a lot of times those loans are coming to you based on your financial situation and what type of loan might be offered to you because of that. And then the last opportunity that may be available to a student is called work study. This would be a program where, again, based on your finances, your financial situation, your student might be offered a job on the college campus where they are either earning an income that they can use to help pay for some of their college expenses, or some universities will award student a job and they deduct, instead of collecting a paycheck, the student actually deducts their wages off of their bill. And again, those will be pieces that come together, and if a student is offered work study, it'll be based on your financial situation, not the student's accomplishments. Okay, so the goal would be, we like the sound of scholarships. We would certainly like it if our child could get a scholarship. What are the different things that donors are looking for? Believe it or not, I will actually have seniors come into my class, into my room a lot and say, oh, Ms. Kinzer, I'm not even going to apply for a scholarship because I don't think I can earn one. Well, donors are looking for all kinds of different things in students. At the end of the day, what you're trying to convince the donor is that you are going to be worth the investment. Donors usually are not looking to just give their money out to anyone, anyway, anyhow. They want to know that the money that they give to help a student is going to be returned to them in terms of a productive citizen, someone who's going to actually finish their degree and whatnot. So sometimes donors are looking, let's look at that academic part of the wheel. Sometimes they strictly are looking at academics. They might be awarding a scholarship based on your GPA, ACT combination, certainly looking at the rigor of your courses. Other times, donors are taking into account if the student was involved in their school. Were they involved in extracurricular activities? Did they have any leadership roles in those activities? So I'm assuming when we're using that word extracurricular, everyone understands we're talking about things like band, and tennis, and track, and football, and orchestra. We have, I don't know how many clubs we have on campus, probably 30 or 40 clubs. DECA is an organization that comes to mind. FBLA. Like I said, we probably have 30 or 40 clubs on campus. Sometimes donors are looking for involvement in that kind of activity. They also are looking at honors and awards. So a few minutes ago, Ms. Cottle suggested you guys start keeping a little notebook or some kind of a record every time your student gets an award. So that could be an academic award. Through the City of Rogers, we do the Chamber of Commerce does an academic award for 3.5 and higher. Start writing that stuff down. If your child letters in their sport, guess what? That counts as an honor or award. Not everyone who plays a sport actually qualifies for a letter in their sport. That is letting the donor know that your child was committed to that activity. They showed up for practice. They came to the games. A lot of times letters are not necessarily earned for your performance in that sport, but it's more so a reflection of your dedication. You already see what's starting to happen. These things that we're talking about are starting to show the donor that if your child can achieve these kinds of activities on a high school campus, what is the likelihood of success in college? It just keeps going up and up. Sometimes donors are looking for, is your child plugged in at school, but are they also plugged into the community? So this would be all kinds of community service activities. And guess what? For a lot of our students, they are very active in their church. You get to count church activities as community involvement. You're not getting paid to support whatever those service activities are. You're doing that for the benefit of others. You're doing that for the benefit of someone in the community. So anything that they're doing like that, they get to keep track of. Students who are Eagle Scouts or the equivalent for the Girl Scouts, they rack up tons and tons of community service hours. So they get to take credit for that. If your child, well, I have a slide coming up here in a little bit, but if your child is looking for opportunities for community service, we have a great tool on campus, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But again, you're going to be counting all your activities all the way from your freshman year up through your senior year. And most of what's going to be happening as we're filling out applications for especially colleges and the college scholarships, they're going to be looking for your record up and through the end of your junior year. So really for our juniors, your junior year is probably one of your most critical years, tacked on top of the success that you've already had as sophomores and freshmen. The other thing that will happen, some people are very interested to know, was the student able to hold down a job? I had a student in my office day before yesterday, almost with tears in her eyes. And she said, Ms. Kinzer, I don't really have much community service or really extracurricular activities because I've always had to work. My parents are relying on me to help bring some income into the household, so I've always had to have a job, and I work a lot of hours every week. So I don't know that my resume actually looks very strong. Actually, it's quite the contrary. Donors understand that there are 24 hours in a day. Students have to come to campus and do their job as a student first, so that takes up, 8 hours probably out of their day, just being on campus. They need to sleep for probably another 8 hours. So what's starting to happen, our day is getting smaller and smaller. In that free time that they have, if a student is working, donors know that kids don't have time to be volunteering in the community, or maybe don't have time to be doing a lot of these extracurriculars. Imagine those kids who play sports. The donors are knowing that so much time is going into practice and going to games and all of that part of it. So maybe they can't work, but it works the same true for kids who work. Donors understand that they don't have time to build their resume the other way. Now, the students who get into trouble, though, are the ones who, okay, let's say they were a good student, they took care of their job, they got the good grades, even studied for the ACT, did pretty well in there, but when they don't have anything else to put in their resume, or anything else to put in the application, they don't have extracurriculars, they didn't volunteer in the community, and they never held a job. Well, now all of a sudden the donor's like, okay, well that's great, good for you that you were a good student, but, how far did you actually stretch yourself? And if you have gone to college yourselves, you remember what those years were like. You are filled with multitasking. You have a lot of irons in the fire. There are demands being pulled on you every time you turn around. So donors are looking at it. If a student was able to manage that on the high school campus and be successful, they are probably going to continue that practice in college. So you're kind of, again, it's this idea of convincing the donor on worth the investment of your money. If you were able to do that in high school, you're probably going to be able to take care of that in college. So when we're talking about scholarships, they can come from all kinds of different places. I'm just listing a few of the sources up here, but a lot of our students will garner big scholarships coming directly from the colleges. When you hear students talk about, or if you have a friend who says, oh, my child got a full ride to such and such, well, usually it's because they got a nice chunk of money coming from the college themselves, and then they probably were able to add money from other places. If your student stays in the state of Arkansas, they'll get to add in funding from Arkansas in terms of the, they call it the academic challenge or the lottery funded scholarship. You've probably seen advertisements on TV for that. They'll show people playing the lottery, which I think is hilarious that they promote gambling to help support our children's education, but whatever, that's what it is. But students who stay in-state can add the lottery-funded scholarship on top of their college award. Sometimes you're able to get national scholarships. And parents, this is where you could come into play as well, because a lot of times your own employers offer scholarships for the children of their employees. So as an example would be, let's say Tyson as an example. Tyson offers scholarships, but the only way that you can have access to a Tyson scholarship is if you actually work there. Same thing for Walmart. Walmart offers scholarships for the dependents of their employees. So that would be a good thing you guys can do between now and your child's senior year is start looking, check with your human resource office and see if they do offer any scholarship programs to help support, potentially your child's education. Another pocket of money would be the community. You guys, you are so lucky here in Rogers Public Schools because we have this phenomenal program. It's called Community-Based Scholarships. Rogers Public Schools actually made the decision years ago to invest in resources for myself. I have a partner over at the Heritage High School campus, and then we actually have a district coordinator who sources out scholarships that are coming right here from our community. So she goes out and she talks to lawyers' offices and businesses and civic groups. We even have some teachers on our campus who offer scholarships to help support our kiddos here. Some of those clubs and organizations on our campus offer scholarships as well. So what happens is those community scholarships are incredible because your student is only competing against other students from Rogers High School. They're not competing with other students, like hundreds of other students from around the country. They're just competing with their classmates. These scholarships can be taken in-state, out-of-state, wherever your student chooses to go. So that's a very cool option. There's usually no restriction on where your child needs to be attending school in order to take advantage of these community programs. Then I mentioned athletic and military. If your student is an athlete and they think that they may be recruited to play on a college campus, there is the possibility that they may be able to earn some scholarship to support their education. And again, they could add on to their athletic scholarship, they could add on academic money, they could add on your employer's money, they can pick up a couple little scholarships from the community, they can add the state of Arkansas money to it. All of a sudden, there's where that whole ride is starting to come into place because they're adding scholarships from a lot of different sources. All right, so how are you supposed to find scholarships? Well, when you're a 10th grader or an 11th grader, as most of the families here are, your resources are fairly limited in that mostly the way kids are finding scholarships at this level are through free search engines. And I'm going to give you the name of a couple here. Ms. Caudle showed two websites to you earlier, that Tassel Time and collegeboard.com. Those offer scholarship searches as well, and then I'm going to show you two more here in just a minute. But what the search engines do, notice the keyword is free. You can go onto the website to create a profile, or the student creates a profile for themselves. They put their data in, and then the search engine searches out scholarships that matches your student's credentials. If you get signed up with some of these search engines, you'll get an email almost every day alerting you to potential applications that your child could fill out. It's perfectly fine at this age, at this level, to go ahead and try to use these search engines. I do have one word of caution though. If you use these search engines, make sure that you, eventually what's going to happen at some point, you're going to get further and further linked into another search engine, and you probably are going to get to a point where someone is going to try to charge you a fee to share the scholarship matches with you. Never, ever, ever, ever pay somebody money to let you know what your child can do to get money. I'm going to say that again. Never, ever pay money to find out what scholarships or what free money your child can get. There are way too many free resources out there. There are services that will say, hey, we can do this for you, but we're going to charge you a fee. Not advisable. There's way too many free opportunities to do that. Okay, then the other thing is, I offer a scholarship list. I post a scholarship list every single week. It's located on my scholarship page, which is located off of the RHS homepage. And on that scholarship list, I advertise, it is literally thousands of scholarships from when the school year starts until when the school year closes that year. It is an awesome resource tool. It's predominantly for our seniors. However, over the course of the year, I will have about 15 scholarships that 10th and 11th graders can apply for. When I was out front earlier this evening, a parent said to me, well, what happens, like, why would my kid apply now? They're not going to college yet. Well, most of the donors will actually hold onto those funds until it's time for your child to enter in as a freshman onto their college campus. So they can, in fact, I shared with them that 2 of my sons started picking up scholarships when they were freshmen and sophomores, and the organizations just held their funds until it was time for them to enroll in college. So you guys absolutely can start looking at that right now. Right now, today, on the scholarship list, I think I have 5 or 6 scholarships that 9th through 12th graders can apply for. So if your child is interested in kind of getting that head start and looking, they can certainly check my list. There's other things that the donors are looking for, not just the age or the grade. You know, there's other requirements that they're looking for, but you're kind of in a sweet window right now where those donors are advertising those scholarships. You won't see as many as the year goes on, so now would be a good time to do that.
So is that list on the website, that tab scholarships?
Yeah, because the question was, is that list on my website on the tab for scholarships? Yes, sir. So on the RHS homepage, and I'll show you that here actually in just a second, how to get to it. But on the RHS homepage, the tab where you normally are checking for your child's grades, that's where my tab is located off of there. And then there's a little link right at the top that says scholarship list, which I update every week. Now, when your child gets to be a senior, that's when Ms. Cottle mentioned this a few minutes ago. The fall of the senior year is just not fun. I'm just going to give you that right now. So many kids come in stressed out. They're all, especially the girls, are all on the verge of tears all the time. The parents are calling me all the time and complaining because there's so much to do and there's not enough time to do it. That's okay. It's just the beginning part of that senior year, because now is when they're getting those scholarship searches done in earnest. One of the big sources that they're doing is applying for their college scholarships. That's a big chunk. Remember I said that's where a big chunk of your money is going to be coming from. They're going to also be checking the scholarship list every week. Then when the time comes, they're going to apply for their Arkansas lottery funded scholarship money. And then certainly if they are interested in doing the free search engines, they can continue doing that as well. So here are 2 pretty reliable search engines that we feel comfortable endorsing. One of them is called FastWeb. The other one is called Fund My Future. Again, you're going to create a user profile, and then you're going to get an email basically every day. And I saw a couple of people nodding their heads, so they're already signed up for these search engines. You're going to get an email every day alerting you to scholarships you can apply for. The downside to using these search engines, normally your competition base is coming from all around the country. So instead of like with the community, maybe you're only competing with, I don't know, maybe 10 other kids for an individual scholarship. These FastWeb and Fund My Future scholarships, you're competing with hundreds of kids from around the nation. So just, I'm sorry, I don't know why this is banging like that. I apologize for that. But in any case, so this will be an opportunity if you guys are interested in pursuing that, or the Tassel Time or the collegeboard.com from earlier. This is just a highlight of everything that is on that scholarship list. I advertise everything. And as I mentioned, I'm going to advertise over 1,000 or thousands of scholarships on that scholarship list. That is only the tip of the iceberg. The only thing I put on the list is when a donor contacts me and asks if I would please advertise their scholarship. There is no way humanly possible for me to advertise thousands and thousands and thousands of scholarships that are out there. So we do the best that we can. We share the ones that we feel are relevant to our students. And I will publish that list over the course of the year. And then our students who are applying for the community scholarships as seniors, that's where I advertise those scholarships as well. So the gentleman asked how to find my page. This is the RHS homepage. That blue tab across the center, it looks kind of white up here. That bar actually scrolls. Normally when you are checking, or if your student's checking their grades, you're probably going to the grade tab, which is just off screen to the left. You're going to click the bar over so you get my page is exposed, and then that will take you into everything on the page. Just one quick word for the student athletes that are out there. Be watching as you are getting closer to your senior year. Some schools, depending on their division level, will require a student to be registered with the clearinghouse. They call it the NCAA clearinghouse. If you're not sure if your student is going to need to be registered for that, have them check with their coach. Or on campus, Coach Eford, who is our freshman counselor, he is kind of our resident expert also on NCAA clearinghouse requirements. So just kind of an idea to keep that in mind if you think you might be recruited. Technically, coaches are not supposed to start speaking to you in terms of finances until you register with the clearinghouse. So again, just check with your coaches. Make sure you get the background pieces in place so that you're ready for those recruitment years of your senior year. All right, if you remember that first slide that I showed you, I said we have scholarships as one source of income, then the other source, not of income, I'm sorry, one source of payment for your college. The other one is financial aid. This is going to be based on the household income. It's going to usually require that current year's tax returns. If you guys are super, super eager and you absolutely cannot wait until senior year to find out if you're eligible for help from the federal government, you may use this tool. It's called the FAFSA Forecaster. It is because you cannot actually apply for your financial aid until January of your senior year. Students all the time get into trouble because they're eager to find out if they're eligible for money from the federal government, so they'll go in and create a FAFSA account. Then actually when it's time to apply for their, complete the true form, FAFSA is registering that there is conflicting information, and it just creates a lot of hassle. So do not try to fill out your FAFSA forms early. But if you are dying to know, oh my gosh, I'm wondering if my kid's going to be eligible for financial aid or not, you may do this now as sophomore and junior parents. You may go onto this site called FAFSA Forecaster. It uses the same formula that the federal government uses to determine financial aid eligibility. It's just not the official form, so nobody gets into trouble. But they give you a fairly good prediction, a forecast. That's why it's called the forecaster. They give you a pretty good prediction of if you're going to be eligible for aid or not. Then again, senior year, that's when we get down to business. That's when you actually would apply for your financial aid. That's when you'll find out if you're going to get a grant. That's when you'll find out if you're eligible for work study. And then also this is where your loan offers are being made from, is based off the information provided on your FAFSA form. I mentioned this just a teeny bit, but a couple things as you're going through the whole scholarship process. I don't know why this happens. It's just like everything else out there. There are people who try to take advantage of us in this situation, and they do offer scams. So the biggest piece of advice I could give you is this idea of do not pay money to get money. I can't say that enough. Do not pay money to try to get your scholarship money. Do not. Also, be careful about free financial aid workshops. There are workshops in our community where students get letters inviting them to come to a financial aid workshop, and they will promote the idea that you can maximize your financial aid opportunity and whatnot. It is perfectly fine to go to the free part of the workshop. I just caution you against signing a contract or committing, sometimes it's hundreds to thousands of dollars, to work with an organization who's going to promise you this miracle money to come out of nowhere. I didn't say this, but on your financial aid form, that FAFSA form, maybe it's on my paper, I'm not sure, but that first F stands for free. That's your free application for federal student aid. So just kind of remember that. If you want to go to any of these information workshops, that's fine. Get educated as you can. Just don't plunk down your money. The financial aid piece is supposed to be free. Everyone knows this, but a lot of times in this process, sometimes if it's too good to be true, it usually is. Meaning just be cautious. You know, kids will get all kinds of letters, all kinds of invitations. Sometimes they'll get letters from schools they never even applied to, saying you won a scholarship, but we need $50 to process your application. No, it's this whole idea, just be cautious. If you ever have questions, if you ever get anything questionable, like I'm not sure if this is real or not, please bring it to your counselors, bring it to me, come bring it to somebody. Do not ask your friend, hey, do you think this is real or not? Students are forever coming and saying, well, my friend told me such and such. Well, unless your friend is getting that information from somebody who's trained to deal with this, please just be very cautious of that. Use the resources available to you on campus. That's what we're here for. Okay, see this big number? That says $12 million. Our kiddos who graduated from Rogers High School last year, this is how much money they were offered in scholarships. Heritage reported similar numbers. So just our little community of Rogers, those kids were getting $24, $25 million in scholarships. This is not even talking about the financial aid piece. These are the scholarships that were awarded to our students based on maybe their GPA or ACT score, community service, extracurricular activities, their working hours, those kinds of things. All of those resume building type things that we talked about. That's how much scholarship our students were offered. That is a huge, huge number. Okay, so we don't want you to have to go through this process alone. We really do want to try to help you. In my office, in the scholarship office, I do a text reminder. Some of you are already on it. You've already signed up for my general office one. You get a lot of information for seniors. If you would like to sign up for your particular classes, Remind 101, this is our text messaging system. So you would type in it's 81010. You know, in the phone number bar, you type in 81010. And if you were graduating class of 2017, you're going to type @ and then that code. If you're class of 2018, which would be our sophomore group, to 81010, you're going to text the CF 8EC2. And what will happen between now and your senior year, that way I can keep carrying you every year. I will just keep plugging you in. I will remind you about ACT deadlines. If there are any kind of cool free workshops going on, I'll remind you about that. And then when we get to senior year, you're probably going to want to type, you're probably going to want to say stop, because I'm tired of getting text messages from her, because we're constantly sending out blasts of information to the students all the time. So this way you guys can just kind of stick with us for the next couple of years. Keep using that text messaging system. Now, one of the fields that we told you about that donors are using to evaluate students for applications is the potential for community service. Our students may know this. I hope the students already know this, but we have 2 cool resources on campus to learn about community service ideas. We do have a bulletin board located here in the Commons where she posts long-term and short-term community service options. But then also they just started their own text messaging system this week, or not this week, maybe a couple weeks ago, to blast out information on community service projects. 2 weeks ago, I signed up for it, not that I'm doing community service, I just like to see what things are out there for students. And like an example would be a couple weeks ago, one of the elementary schools was hosting some kind of an information night, and they needed childcare for the teachers' kids. So it was a 3-hour little community service job. Students could then quickly respond. It wasn't committing them to doing this week in and week out. It was just a quick little blast of information. So this is really kind of a cool tool as she hears about different things available in the community, maybe even longer term. The Lions Club is doing a haunted house in Bella Vista. They fully staff that with student labor, student volunteers, excuse me. They will send out that blast of information just saying, hey, if you want to volunteer, here's who you contact. So this is a pretty cool resource for our students. I'm going to turn this back over to the counselors, but I do just want to say one thing before we finish up. Everything we talked about tonight was designed to build your student's resume in the idea of we want to make them an attractive candidate for college admission purposes. We also want to make them an attractive candidate for scholarships, to possibly gain scholarships. But the part that's intangible to that is the growth that your child goes through when they're experiencing all of these things. When they're learning how to manage their time, when they're learning what it feels like to serve somebody else, when they're learning about what it feels like to serve in a leadership role. I had a son who was painfully shy when he entered in on the freshman campus, and because of my job, I kind of pushed him to get involved in things and whatnot. And what I saw happen to that child was this unbelievable growth and this confidence that he gained out of taking on these little small roles. The consequences of something going wrong are pretty minuscule at this point, but what it did for him was that he gained so much confidence, and courage is kind of a strong word, but just this whole idea that he just grew so much from having those opportunities. So we're talking about in this resume building things, but you get that extra benefit of the growth that comes out of that. So please contact me with any questions. People, you all still look like you're with me, and I see heads nodding, so I hopefully haven't overwhelmed you too much. And I thank you for coming, and I'm going to turn it back over to the counseling department.
Okay, so we are almost done here for the evening, but a few things. As a counseling department, we're trying to do a better job of getting connected with parents and students. So one way that we are doing that this year is we have a presence on social media. So I encourage parents, guardians, students, and if you use Twitter, you can see our handle up there at Counseling RHS. We also have a Facebook page. You can see the URL up there. But if you search on Facebook, type in Rogers High School Counseling, and we'll pop up. I know Ms. Cottle showed you at the beginning the counseling website. So if you don't use social media or you don't allow your student to use social media, we do update the website frequently. Social media is just another way to be getting information.